Finally, let's now handle Mongoose's validation errors. So remember how we tried to update a tour with some invalid data here and then get this kind of error. Okay, and let's actually try to add another one. So a name that's really short. Okay, and because that's not allowed again. Oh, and now we actually no longer can see our error because we're now in production. And of course, this error right now is not handled correctly. It is not marked as operational, and so therefore, remember, we get this kind of generic error message back. Okay, so just to see the error that we had before, let's quickly switch back to development. So npm start, and let's send it now again. And so now we get back our development errors. Okay, because now I want to show you how we can actually create a meaningful error message based on all of this what we have here. All right, so inside our error, we get an error properties, and that property itself is an object which has a lot of objects in there, and each of them is for one of the fields that has an error. All right, so the first one here is for the length of the tour. Then the second one is for the difficulty, that is also wrong. And the third one is for the rating. Okay, so each of these actually has a nice error message. Okay, so basically the one that we defined in our Mongoose schema. And so now we want to extract these three messages from here and put them all into one string. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and again, I'm going to start by actually creating the conditional down here. So if error, and actually let's take a look. So here we have the error, we have the errors, all of them, and I need to scroll here. And yeah, so here's the name. So error.name is validation error. All right, so let's grab that. Okay, and so this again is an error created by Mongoose, so just like the first one, and so they look similar. Okay, now I don't want this here, but instead I want that the error should be equal to handle validation error db and send in the error. Okay, now let's copy this again. All right, and let's again simply start by creating our message. Invalid input data. And then let's also return the error. So new app error message 400. So VS Code already recognized that I wanted to type just that. All right. Now, in order to create one big string out of all the strings from all the errors, we basically have to loop over all of these objects and then extract all the error messages into a new array. So let's again take a look at that. Okay, so the object that has all of the objects in there is errors. Okay, so we have one error for name, one for difficulty, and one for ratings average. And so we're gonna basically loop over this errors object. Okay, and in JavaScript we use object.values in order to basically loop over an object, so the elements of an object. All right, so let's create a variable here called errors, which again will be an array of all the error messages for now. And now object.values, and so we want the values of error.errors. All right, and now loop over them using a map, and then in each iteration we are simply going to return the error message. Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page here, the object.values are these objects. Okay, so this object, and this object and the next one. Okay, so these are the values. And so now all we have to do in order to extract the message is to say value.message. Okay, so .message. So basically the current value, or let's say the current element, I like to use element for that. And we want to return element.message. Okay. And now, of course, this should not be here, and you had probably already noticed that. So in fact, this is where we want this. Okay, and so now all we need to do is to plug this into our message string. All right. So errors, and now we simply join all of them together into one string using a period and then space. Okay, and you will see in a second why that is. All right. So let's switch back to production here. So running our production start script. Try it again now, and let's wait for it. And bam, here we go. So invalid input data. Then the first error string must have more or equal than 10 characters. Then the second one and the third one. Perfect. And so that's why I used the period space. Okay, so to basically separate these three strings with a period and a space. All right, and now this looks like a very nicely formatted error message that everyone can easily understand. Right? So we're basically done here. All right. Now we could have made this error handling here a lot more complete still. For example, we could define different error severity levels, like saying this error is not so important, this error is medium important, and this error is very important or even critical. And we could also then like email some administrator about critical errors. And really, there's a lot of stuff that we could implement. But again, in a kind of small application like this one, what we have here is already really good. Okay, so this is quite a robust strategy already that we have implemented here. And I'm really happy with it. Okay, so all this logic here with the operational errors that we implemented here, so that's already quite sophisticated. Okay. Now, if we were ever to find another error that we want to mark as operational, then of course all we would have to do is something similar to what we have here. Okay, so basically implement another function for that one, and then return our own operational error, so that the send error production can then actually send that operational error to the client, right? Okay, and with that being said, our error controller is actually finished, but there are still some other errors that we need to handle, which are completely outside of Mongo or even of Express. And so we're doing that in the rest of this section.